Those of you who got an invite, welcome to Nerd Prom.
No matter where in the world you are, we're all Nerds International. With the hyphen.
Right, YouTube, it's Mr. Mean coming at you from very gloomy Beaumont, Texas. It's supposed to rain today and be generally just yucky. Hopefully tomorrow will be nice for the Super Bowl. I don't give a rat's ass about the Super Bowl because none of the teams I care about are in it, so I'll probably watch it just so I can have an excuse to grill some chicken wings. But today's video du jour comes from us from, I don't know how to put this, an independent publisher, Free League Coriolis. A big shout out to my good friend TJ, as for Christmas he sent me an Amazon gift card, and that's what paid for this. So I had heard a lot of good things about this, and one of the things that intrigued me about Free League Coriolis is that it was Arabian Nights meets now I'm drawing to think Firefly. So Arabian Nights meets Firefly in space. And I thought, that's two very cool things. I'm a big fan of Arabian Night type settings, and of course I love Firefly. Don't consider myself a brown coat, but I do. I've seen the movie, I've seen the TV show, and I do own the RPG in the library. I've actually never played it, just because I've never had a chance. But I do like that setting. Of course, I like all the characters from Firefly, and so something that says it is, Arabian Nights meets Firefly has got my attention. It's a pretty decent tome. It is actually produced by freeleaguepublishing.com, and it's published by Modiphius. You guys all know, if you've watched my channel, I'm a huge Modiphius fan. I love Conan. I love Mutant Chronicles. Is one of my all-time favorite RPG settings. And of course, I have the Star Trek RPG. And then as soon as my Kickstarter comes in, it's only 3 years behind. Would be the Infinity RPG should be coming in, and so I'm definitely looking forward to that. So anyway, this was published in 2016 after a very successful Kickstarter. I had never heard of these guys before, and I saw the game. And the reason I didn't back it, A, is at the time I didn't have the money, and B, the mechanics. The way I read the mechanics from the Kickstarter kind of turned me off. I am not a D6 fan. I am not a fan of games that use D6s. I do like GURPS. I play GURPS whenever I get an opportunity, but I don't like to run GURPS because it's a D6 game. That being said, I absolutely adore Fantasy Age, which is a D6 game, but it has a very unique mechanic, and I like it. I love the world of Shadowrun. I don't like playing Shadowrun. I don't like the mechanics. I don't want to chuck a handful of D6s. And in all fairness, it's gotten better I think they're on the fifth edition of Shadowrun, and so they've toned down the dice a little bit, but it's just not my cup of tea. I don't like the way the game mechanics work. I love the setting. I think it's one of the best cyberpunk sci-fi fantasy settings out there that you can get, but it's just not my cup of tea. So this hefty tome weighs in at about 374 pages. That's including character sheet and index. A couple extra pages devoted to all the Kickstarter backers, and there were quite a few. This game evidently did very well on Kickstarter. And I kind of kick myself, pun intended, that I did not back the Kickstarter. But I'm just going to give you a little blurb off the back that kind of sets the tone of this a little bit. So I'm getting a signal. Dalil's voice cracked over the comm. We're close. The navigator gazed into the darkness ahead, his face ghastly pale in the cold glow from the tabula in his hands. Radwa nodded silently for her comrades to advance, approaching the strange ruins in the moonscape. The only sound they could hear were their own breathing through their air filters and the soft crunch under their boots. The floodlights from their freighter Narazalis behind them cast long shadows of the trio. Something is wrong, boss. The sharp voice of Jara broke the silence. Her Vulcan rifle hummed as the tall woman from Sadal activated her weapon. Without turning, Rodwell raised her hand to still her friend. "Easy, Ja," she whispered over the comm. The explorers shone their suit-mounted flashlights over the ruins. Alien signs were carved into the smooth, dark surface. In the light, they seemed to be glowing. Something slowly unraveled before them. A darkness rose from the surface of the dead moon, reaching towards the starry sky above them. "Mercy of the icons," Rodwell gasped, and felt a chill spread throughout her body. So that's a little piece of blurb on the back of the book. And then it goes on to say that Coriolis, the Third Horizon, is a science fiction role-playing game from the makers of critically acclaimed Mutant Year Zero, 6-time nominee and winner of a Silver Innie for Best Rules 2015. This game features create your own unique player characters, including skills, talents, gears, and relationships, in mere minutes. Fight fast and furious battles praying to the icons to overcome your enemies. Build and crew your own spaceship to explore the many star systems of the Third Horizon. Experience thrilling spaceship duels using a game system that puts all player characters at the heart of the action. Take part in the intrigue between powerful factions on the majestic space station Coriolis. Uncover the mysteries of the Third Horizon, a rich tapestry of cultures that have settled the stars. And then there's from RPG.net review. The game's author described it as Arabian Nights in space, and it fulfills the brief, marvelously style, and fulfills that brief, marvelously style. 5 out of 5. Substance 5 out of 5. RPG.net review. I'm going to agree with it 100%. Again, I said I'm not a D6 fan, and we'll get into the mechanics in a minute. The book, the cover is evocative. You can tell it's some sort of spooky sci-fi setting. There's fog around there. There's characters, in sci-fi armor, little lights on them, breathing apparatuses, big guns in their hand. There's a little bit of fiction throughout the book. The book is laid out pretty well, in my opinion. The art is consistent. It's a very dark, almost computer-generated style art. There's a space combat, and there's a big ship there, so you can see that. Character creation is in the very beginning of the book. They give you a little bit of information, and it jumps right into it. I'm still in the midst of reading it. I'm enjoying what I'm reading. Here's some cool art that kind of depicts like the style of dress and the flavor. The book is very well done. It's a hardback, like I said, about 275 pages or so. It's a black border. I mean, if you have the PDF of this and you try to print it, your printer will jump up and slap the shit out of you. It's a very dark background. I'm hoping that the PDF printer friendly version exists, and you can go from there. Now, the art is extremely consistent. They had a couple of artists that did it. Let's see here. Graphic design was Christian Graneth. Cover art is by Martin Borgstrom. These are all Swedish and probably French people, I believe. It's just Kostelos is the lore manager, and he's the guy that kind of was the brainchild behind this book. After being out of role-playing games for a while, he got back into them, and he wanted to create a game that he wanted to play, which is 90% of why all content creators do what they do, is because it's what they want to see, and his vision came through in this. The layout of this book is fantastic. The quality of this book it's a stitched, sewn in glue binding, so you get that nice crackle when you open it up. I don't know if my microphone will pick that up, but I've been going through it quite a bit, so you may not get it as much, but you can hear it a little bit. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous book. If you're a fan of Arabian Nights and you're a fan of a different setting, you don't want the cookie cutter Starfinder, setting. You want something that speaks differently, and the players are going to have a little impact. I think this might be the game for you. Now, disclaimer, I have not got to play this. I've been reading the rules, and I gotta say, I'm impressed. And remember, I started this video by saying I don't like D6 systems. This is a D6 dice pool system. You get, and the point here is you want to roll as many dice as you can, and you're looking for sixes. Not a 4, 5, 6, not a 5, 6, sixes. So obviously the more dice you can throw, the better your odds are of getting a success. The nice part is successes are easy in the aspect of once you get one, you've succeeded. The more successes you get, the better you do. You can add more to damage. You can activate certain special abilities. You can do some really neat stuff with the combat. They really looks like they play tested this D6 system quite extensively. It's a stat and a skill, kind of gives you a dice pool plus or minus any modifiers. Modifiers are to the number of dice you roll. So a positive modifier will give you more dice. A negative modifier will give you less dice. And again, you're trying to get sixes. And then go from there. I thought that was pretty neat. I like that aspect. You can haggle with the GM to give yourself advantageous results and get more dice if it seems appropriate. And one of the neat things about this game is they take the gods very seriously, and the gods are called icons. And there's, I think, 11 or 12 of them, if I remember correctly. Or the 12th god is like the no-named god, and it's spooky. But it's done very well. And what happens is you can make a die roll, and if you miss, you can describe to the GM, and as long as the GM approves, the GM has final say, just like in any other role-playing game. The GM approves it, which most likely it will, but you can, if you miss, you can say a prayer to the appropriate icon, aka God. So like there's an icon of dexterity, and if it's, you're trying to shoot somebody with your Vulcan carbine, which is a gun they reference in all of the fiction and stuff several times. So I haven't looked up the stats of a Vulcan carbine, but I believe it's a +3, which means it would give you 3 extra dice to roll for combat if you shoot somebody. For figuring out damage. And the cool part is you can pray to that icon of dexterity, and if you succeed, well, it's not even that you succeed, you pray to the icon and you pick up your dice and you re-roll them. The cool part is you can pick up 1 or 2 of your dice, some of your dice, or all of your dice. So if you get no successes, you can pick up the dice and roll again and hopefully go better, because I mean, nothing from nothing leaves nothing, right? But if you get a couple of successes, but you really need to hit this guy, or you really need to take him out, you can say a prayer to the icon, pick up those 3 dice that didn't roll 6s and re-roll them, and hopefully get, a couple more successes. And they give you, the book does a great job of giving you step-by-step examples, making a character, combat examples, skill examples. It's done very well. I didn't feel lost anywhere in the process of making a character, which is a good thing. And the other thing that I really like about this game, a lot of games talk about this, but they don't emphasize it. I feel that Coriolis emphasizes it, is that character creation is a group concept. You need, and I stress this again, you need to sit down with your players, your fellow players, and your GM, and you need to make characters. You need to decide on what type of character everyone's going to play, what role they're going to fill, because there's more than just, I want to be the lone rogue assassin. Everybody needs to fulfill a role, because one of the things you start with is you start with a spaceship. You also have to figure out what your group is going to be. Are you going to be mercenaries? Are you going to be assassins? Are you going to be free traders? Are you going to be merchants? All of these are options, and they have, it's not just an affectation of role-playing. They have values. They give you something. So if you choose to be, you choose to join the mercenary faction, you're going to get to choose a mercenary talent that the whole group is going to get to benefit from. And there are some stipulations. What's nice is I don't think they're overpowered. So in other words, you can choose one, and I don't remember them off the top of my head, but you can choose a talent where everybody, as long as they're doing the same thing gets the same bonus. So it's kind of a good thing. It forces you to play as a group. If you want this benefit, everybody has to do the same thing. So the players need to coordinate. And I'm a big fan of any game that keeps other players at the table from doing this, playing on their cell phone while someone else is taking their turn, or playing on their laptop or their tablet, or flipping through the monster manual to find out what the next big monster is that they need to fight. This game encourages you to actively participate in the scene because it affects everybody. Because if you want to use that talent based on your group, everybody has to do the same thing, and if they don't, then you don't get the benefit, and so that could kind of screw the party. Chapter 1 is basically what is Coriolis in a nutshell. It's Arabian Nights in space. It's mysticism and icon worship. It's the old versus the new. There's 2 different factions, and they're all humans. There's no aliens in this game for the most part. There's a tiny way that you can play genetically altered people and some minor aliens, but the game really kind of pushes you in the route of playing a human, and there's 2 different sects of humans. There's the first comers, and then there's the newcomers, I believe it's called. They give them names, and I apologize, I don't know them off the top of my head, because to be honest, I want you to go out and buy the book. I think this is a buy. I'm going to say that right now. This is awesome. The third, Zenith and Nadir. Many hundreds of years ago, 2 colossal colonization vessels left Earth. Their names were Zenith and Nadir, and their destination, the star Aldebaran. The crews lived their lives aboard the ship through centuries of space travel. One of the ships, the Nadir, was lost somewhere in the darkness during the voyage, without leaving any trace. The Zenith continued alone, and so it goes in to break it up more, but those 2 ships happen. The Zenithians and Zenithians and the first comers, Coriolis and the Cow, or Kua. These, and then there's some factions, and it breaks down the conflicts and the emissaries and the possibilities, and then it goes right in to character creation in chapter 2. Chapter 1 is basically telling you a little bit about the world. They don't go super in depth. They tell you where you came from, kind of these 2 ships went off, and it gives you a brief about that, and then you roll into character creation. And in my opinion, it's probably one of the best done character creations I've read in a long time. You choose a group, and you can be free traders, you can be smugglers, mercenaries. What else? I think there was explorers, agents, pilgrims. You get a spaceship. You also have to decide what kind of spaceship you're going to have. So if you're a mercenary group, you might want to take more of a combat related ship, but you might want to have room on there for cargo because you need to make money some way. You can't always, there's not always a conflict that you're going to be able to join. So they go really good into telling you options, and then it's up to the players as a group to decide on these options, and I think that is a fantastic thing. Keeps everybody involved. Like I said, I went over the mechanics a little bit. I don't know them that well because I haven't played it, but I really do like it. One of the cool things is in combat, you're going to roll a bunch of dice to try and hit somebody. They're going to get to actively try and dodge, or a passive dodge, and they're going to be able to use terrain. That's going to give them more dice that they can roll to try and not get hit. And I think it's going to keep everybody active. So when the GM's got his NPC characters and they're shooting at or meleeing with the other player characters, everyone's going to want to be involved because it could get ugly real quick. Looks like the damage in this game is pretty brutal. Damage goes the same way. You get a bunch of 6s, you roll, and then you do a damage, and then you subtract that from your hit points, basically. There's only 4 stats in the game, and I'll go over those real quick. And then the 4 stats subdivide into giving you your secondary stats, which is kind of cool. So it's very, very simple. Let me get a character sheet here. So your 4 stats are strength, agility, wits, and empathy. Strength and agility will go to figure out your hit points, and then your wits and empathy will figure out your mind points. You can take stress in this game as well as physical damage. Mental stress. There are psychic powers It's not easy to get them, but you can start play being a psychic, and they're very limited in what their powers can do. I would imagine future supplements will expound upon it, but they do touch base on it. They give you some basic powers. They tell you how to deal with stuff like clairvoyance and clairsentience, which I think is very well done. And the fact that they put enough in here to think about that was pretty awesome. The game also takes kind of steals a little bit from Powered by the Apocalypse, in that you have relationships. So everyone in the crew you have a standing with, and you have something about them, whether you like them or you hate them or you trust them or you don't, and you get to write it down. And one of the players will be your buddy, and that's the person that you'll take a bullet for or something like, or you'll go out of your way to help them. Now the cool part about it is they may not be your buddy. So it's kind of cool, and the players get to figure that all out. The skills, there's only 16 skills. There's 8 beginner skills, and there's 8 advanced skills, and you rank those up accordingly. The weapons, of course, character sheet is pretty succinct. There's a spaceship sheet, which has energy points and hull points. Again, when you're doing character creation and you build your ship, you pick your ship, you have to assign someone to be the captain, someone to be the pilot, someone to be the engineer, the gunner, and the sensors operator. And if you have a group that only has 4 players, somebody's going to double up on that. Or maybe you assign sensors to like a computer role, and nobody has to, per se be tied down to the sensors. So it's really nice in how it does it. The character sheet, again, it's a black and white monster. I downloaded the character sheets off their website, off of Modifius' site. You can get it as a PDF bundle and a zip file. They are printer friendly in that aspect. They're not as dark as they are in the character sheet. So the game has a very rich, unique world. It is very much that Arabian Nights feel. Like you'll go into a local pub or merchant area, and there'll be a hookah there, and everybody will be smoking. It's kind of that feel. They go to great lengths. They give you some really cool examples and ideas of setting and how to do things, and how to set the scene, so to speak. I haven't read Space Combat yet, so I apologize. I will do another review once I get a chance to play this. I've already talked to my local game group, and they are down for giving it a try. They typically don't like to make characters, but I told them in the essence of this game, you have to all sit down and make characters. Doing pre-gens, if I make the pre-gens, it's going to be very biased and that kind of thing. So it's better if everybody just sits down and works together to make a character, and that's half the fun. So I really, really dig the look, the vibe. The presentation of this game is top notch. They do also have out the icon cards, which tell you the gods, the icons, and they also are used in initiative. So all the cards have a number on them, and you can flip a card, and that's your initiative. So kind of almost like a Savage Worlds thing, which is kind of cool. Also, they have within those icon card pack, they have all the positions of the spaceship. So if you're the captain, this is the bonuses you get to doing things on your ship. If you're the gunner, these are the things you get, and so on and so forth. So very cool, very well thought out. They have a very nice looking GM screen. I do not own it. You can get it in PDF as well as hard copy from Modifius. The problem is with Modifius is they're across the pond. They're in England, and while the price of the GM screen and the icon cards is not prohibitive, I think the GM screen is $20, maybe be a little bit more for the hardback. I think it's $20 for the PDF, which there's no shipping involved in PDF, but I want the physical screen. The downside is the shipping to send it from over there to the States here is prohibitive for my budget. So I'm going to see if my local game store can get the GM screen in. I don't feel I need the icon cards. So I'm a completist, and I like to get everything for a game if I can. But in this case, I just don't think they add enough to the game to warrant the $10 or $12 that they're charging for the icon deck. That being said, if I see it on sale or it's on eBay or something, I might pick it up if it's dirt cheap. But I definitely would like the GM screen. I think there's some good information on the GM screen that would be pertinent to help me run the game. It very much, from what I'm reading so far, gives me a Powered by the Apocalypse kind of set the scene, let the players describe it, which I find myself more and more in my role-playing games using. I mean, the players usually, when you're playing D&D, or in my case, Fantasy Age is one of the games that I like to run at conventions, and I'll talk about that at the end of the video. But in Fantasy Age, I sit down and I do the first hour of my convention game is world building, and I let everybody get it out of their system and spout lore basically about the game world, and then I make some notes and I use that, I intertwine that in, because Fantasy Age doesn't have a default setting. If you're playing Dragon Age, then you know everything. You've got a book, you've played the video games, you know the setting. But in Fantasy Age, the setting is whatever the GM decides it to be. So it's nice to have it, but it's not needed per se. So doing something like the Power of the Apocalypse and spouting lore about the world gives the players a sense of investment, and I like that. And Coriolis seems to kind of point that way as well. And again, I find that the older I'm getting, the more I like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, your gaming when I was in my 20s, I liked hack and slash. I wanted to kick the door in, kill the monsters, and take their shit. Now I like more of a little narrative story. I like the players to get into character, and I enjoy that. So I'm looking forward to it. I want to give it a run. I'll definitely do a follow-up video and let you guys know how it turned out and what I thought about it. My next review will be Feng Shui, second edition by Robin D. Laws and Atlas Games. I've been reading that, and I know how to play Feng Shui. It's one of my all-time favorite games. And so that review will be coming here real soon, probably next weekend. I've been popping one out a weekend, maybe two a weekend. Depends tomorrow what's going on. If the weather's shitty, I'll probably pop out another video. I've got some miniatures here I need to paint. Like, this is my Dragonborn monk. I need to paint him for my D&D game, which is tonight. I'll be playing D&D, and I'm a player, not the GM, so I'm having a lot of fun with that, because I've never played 5th edition D&D. I've always been the GM, so it's nice to be able to sit down and play. So let's see, what else is going on? We'll take the last couple of minutes of this video. Mr. Mean, yours truly, will be at 2 local conventions here in the greater Texas, Houston area. In February, end of February, I will be at OwlCon at Rice University, OwlCon, just outside in the Houston area. You can go to owlcon.com and you'll be able to find out information. I'll be running Fantasy Age at OwlCon I am running Conan 2D20, An Age Undreamed Of, and I am running Tephra by Cracked Monocle Studios. 2 games that I really enjoy, and Tephra doesn't get enough exposure, and it's a really cool game, so I'm looking forward to running that. I've checked the signups already, and I think both games are pretty much sold out there. I think there's 1 or 2 spaces left in the Tephra game, so if you're going to be in the area for the end of February and you're going to find yourself at RiceCon or Rice University for OwlCon, sign up for my game, man. Hopefully come by, say hi, say you watched the videos, let me know. Anyway, then the next con I'll be at is in April at MagCon. That's hosted by David Donahoe and crew over at Etten Games. They're a big sponsor of the con, and it's all for charity. So if you're going to be in the area and you want to support a charity and do your good deed for the month in April, come on out to MagCon. At MagCon, I will be running Fantasy Age. I'm running 2 sessions of Fantasy Age, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. So come on by and drop in and say hi and game with me and everything, and it'll be cool. The Fantasy Age game is where I do the world building that I talked about earlier. So it's kind of you have a nice vested interest in the games and everything. So anyway, as always, that's Mr. Mean. That's what's going on this fine Saturday, the 3rd of February, 2018. We have survived another week. That's my initial thoughts on Coriolis, however you want to say it, by Free League Publishing. You can get it through Modifius. It's a buy, in my opinion. I'm going to do a follow-up review once I've had a chance to run the game. I'm hoping next weekend I can run it. If I can't, then maybe the weekend after that. And then the weekend after that, I'll be at the convention, so there'll be no game that weekend, and most likely no video, because I'll be at the convention. Although I may bring my laptop and rip out a video from the hotel. We'll see how it goes. So anyway, that's Mr. Mean. As always, peace and hair grease. And remember, be nice.